Welcome back to another episode of the Peace, Power, and Purpose podcast. Help us spread awareness for men's mental health and the gospel of Jesus Christ by ringing the bell and subscribing to the channel. This is the Peace, Power, and Purpose podcast. I'm your host, Steve, and today I'm joined by the only man to ever serve as a U.S. Navy SEAL and to also serve in the French Foreign Legion. Taylor Cavanaugh, thank you so much for coming on the show, brother. I appreciate you.
I appreciate being here and everybody for tuning in, man. I love the title, man. Peace, power, purpose. I get behind that, man, because that's what it's all about, dude.
Yeah, man. And if you're watching right now, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button and help us spread awareness for men's mental health. Taylor, let's start from the beginning, man, for our listeners and our viewers. Let's kind of start with where were you born and what'd your childhood look like?
I was born back east in kind of Boston area, Beverly, Mass, but I ended up moving to Southern California. My dad was in the Marine Corps. So I lived on a Marine base at the beginning of my life in Tustin. It was an old Chinook base.
Oh, cool.
And my parents had a tumultuous relationship. I think I had a pretty good childhood I knew my parents loved me, but there was a lot of issues with drugs and alcohol from my father and, just a lot of tension and violence in the house, not beating us and things like that, but broken doors and, a lot of stuff like that. Just a lot of fighting. Parents stayed together for a while, though. It was choppy, but, they ended up splitting up multiple times, but ended up divorcing. And so I lived with my grandparents and my mom in San Diego and up in Poway. And so that's where I grew up playing sports and overall had a pretty good high school childhood, but a lot of trouble. Kicked out of high school, lost some scholarship opportunities. I played football and lacrosse and really, really didn't understand the gravity of some of the stuff I was doing. I mean, we were going to Mexico and shooting steroids and doing, showing up drunk at football practice, dude. Pretty wild thinking back. I thought it was normal, but it was definitely not. And ended up getting kicked out of school. Still had some opportunities, played in college. Well, started to play in college, but big car accidents, getting arrested on campus, got kicked out first semester.
Wow.
And then it just, junior college, dealing drugs, now not really going to school, just started to cascade. And now, mind you, this whole time, I always knew I wanted to be a Navy SEAL since I was like 7 years old. But I was so unaware of what was going on. But I knew I needed to finish college. My grandfather was a Naval Academy graduate. My mom was like, you got to go to college if you're going to go in the military. It was like, you got to be an officer. But looking at that now, it's funny. Thinking about the stuff I was doing, I'm like, bro, I just would have never done it. I would have never got accepted, right? Because I was having tons of arrests. I ended up going back east, getting my shit straight. And now I had, because I know this, you're real faith-based, is I had some moments of clarity, man, where I call it God speaking to me, where I woke up one morning, it was like October 2004, and it was raining. And I remember just some things, a lot of stuff was flooding in my head, but I had this moment like, you need to get the fuck out of here right now. And I did. And I gave all my drugs away, went into a little lockdown facility just to get some separation from where I was at, and then moved and told nobody. And that's where I kind of reset my life. And a lot of guys I was hanging with now are all dead or in prison.
Wow.
But with the exception of one, and he's still kind of going through it, but I mean, all of them. So that was just a sign that I was kind of being led. I always felt like I had this protection over me. And mind you, I always felt this connection with God. I wasn't raised very religious. I was exposed to different religions, and my parents, I guess, technically had been raised Catholic, but I had nothing pushed on me, nothing. And it was not, we'd go to church sometimes, but it wasn't something that was, you have to do this. But I always kind of felt like I had this walking conversation, like I had this connection, and like I would be protected, and that I was never an evil person. I did a lot of dumb knucklehead shit, but I always knew that I was respectful, and that I, in bad situations where people were vulnerable, I never was the evil in any way. And so I always felt like And I always maintained this knowing that I could be better, but it was all me that was causing my problems. It wasn't
Mm.
like something else. I knew it was all me and my selfish actions. I was never like, oh, why is this happening to me? Right? I was always like, oh shit, I really did it this time. And, and now coming back to California, I transferred to a college, University of California, Santa Cruz, where I ended up
Okay.
graduating from barely. But while there, I had a lot of arrests, ton of arrests, man, and a lot of misdemeanors, drunk driving, driving unsuspended, fights, a lot of shit like that. Just being a knucklehead. And so then when I got out to go in the military, it was very challenging. Right. They were like, dude, you're on probation. You have fucking pending
Mm.
court cases and all this stuff. So I had to go to jail, clear up my probationary sentences and stuff just to even be able to talk to the military. Army
Mm-hmm.
turned me down. Marines turned me down for different reasons, tattoos, background. They said no dice. And the Navy was the only one that would take me if I could be past the SEAL stuff, past the SEAL screeners. Got a lot of letters of recommendation from active duty SEALs. I trained with a lot of guys. I
Nice.
called up people, went in person, was stacking boxes at Home Depot, living at my mom's house, just driving a $500 car, just trying to make it all happen, man. And lo and behold, it did. After about 9 months, I was taking the SEAL screening test down at the Naval Amphibious Base.
Mm.
That's where I'm from. And so I was going,
Yeah.
taking it
Yeah.
in a 55 people in a 7-lane pool. It was mayhem, but I was
Yeah.
starting to rack up at the top. And so I got a contract after about 9 months with a lot of elevated scores and letters of recommendation and waivers. But there we go. Now I shipped out to SEAL training. I shifted into the pipeline. I went all the way through, was one of the originals of 13 out of like 285 guys or something, and went to SEAL Team 7. And that's where I started my SEAL career. So I was at SEAL Team 7 and spent 7 years there. So I sniper, JTAC. We went to Yemen, Iraq, and started very strong. But and we always talk about the psychological game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where was I at mentally, spiritually? I was excited to be there. I worked really hard. I don't really recall having really tapped into my faith much, right? I just was separated from that.
What year? Hang on, Taylor. What year did you go to Buds? What year was that?
2010.
Okay. And so real quick, just backing up for a sec. As you were going through high school and college and getting in trouble, was anger a big emotion in you? Like where did that stem from? Was that a cry for attention because of your home life? Where do you think that came from? And then we'll get back to
Dude,
the 7.
yeah, like a lot of people will say, I had a lot of anger. I don't remember having a lot of anger. I know I had explosive moments of anger in my life,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know, but I don't recall, and this could have been lack of self-awareness or but I generally had a pretty positive attitude about stuff.
Okay.
I was, I felt good about life in general, and a lot of the trouble I got into was me wanting to have more fun. Really,
Okay.
it's really
Okay.
a lot of it came from. Now, if you want to layer that and texture that back, could there be some void that I'm trying to fill, like lack of? Sure, 100%. There could definitely be that. It was a lot of immaturity, so I don't really recall. I mean, I'm sure I had some anger at the time with how I grew up or my father, or who knows, right? There's always
Mm-hmm.
that cliche stuff, and that could have been very well part of it. But it definitely affected the way I operated in terms of I really pushed the pace in terms of risk management. I
Right.
pushed that
Right.
risk. I pushed that risk to about as far as you could go, and without pushing it over the line by dying. Really, still here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. When you graduated from SQT, was your mom and dad there and your grandfather at that time?
so my grandfather had passed away,
Okay.
but my dad and mom were there, which was really cool. And it was weird
I
because,
bet.
less than 3 years from the time I walked out of jail, I was getting my SEAL trident.
That's
Right.
awesome,
So,
man. Yeah.
so that was a pretty powerful, just remembering starting this process of like, I wanted it so bad. You want something so bad, you're like, there's no way it's ever going to happen. That's kind of what it had
Yeah.
felt like when I started it. And then going into the SEAL teams, I was very motivated. I was there early. I got a lot of responsibilities, but I still like to mix it up a little bit. And I was very locked on during the training because I was scared of, getting kicked out. But I had some close
Right.
calls with the cops. I still got arrested even while in SQT once. I
No
got,
kidding.
yeah, I got arrested in SQT down at Pacific Beach, drunk in public. And so I got, and that could have kicked me out, but it got washed under the rug.
Mm.
I got arrested once a year pretty much in the SEAL teams from that point, but little things here and there with the cops downtown or whatever. And was just would correct it so hard and would be so locked on. And then I would have this like, fuck up and it would be stressful and all the guilt and shame and the concern. And then I would forget about it. And then
Yeah.
I'd keep doing what I was doing. And
Yeah.
then I had a big one where I got an aggravated assault in, while I was after my first deployment. And that caused a lot of stuff, a lot of legal problems, hemorrhaging cash, demotion, right? Security clearance stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Deployed to Iraq with all that going on, came back and was dealing with a relationship problem, my own stuff. And that was a very stressful time coming out of it. And then being on formal probation, making it through all that with serious financial strain and life strain and team strain, making it through all that. And then fucking it up again a few months later with another altercation. And that was the one that really put the nail in the hammer. Now, people watching this, they're like, "How could you be so stupid?" Right? Again and again. I agree. Right? And I was
Yeah.
like, I agree. But when we were so in it, you don't, and definitely ego and other things. I'm like, I got it this time. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I got
Yeah.
it. Oh, there's no way that's gonna happen again. And that was something that
Ditto.
I fell into a lot. There's no way something that bad will happen again. And sure enough,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
was the feeling I had.
Did that Budweiser on your chest give you like a more of a bravado where you felt untouchable?
Man, I don't think I felt untouchable. I mean, I had obviously my track
You
record
weren't.
had proven.
Yeah.
I had been like,
Yeah.
well, my track record had proven I had been like that before it, right?
Right.
And so,
Right.
I mean, I
Right.
was, I think I had about 17 arrests by the time I was 22, maybe,
Okay.
right? And so I had stacked quite a bit, and I had been doing that, and I actually had honed it in quite a bit, which is this is fun. But the fuck ups got bigger, right?
Right.
Because the
Right.
stakes were higher. Now the mess ups got bigger, and the charges got bigger as things start to develop, and that's what happened. And next thing I know, my last time I ever dealt with the cops, really, which is was this time. No, it's a violation of probation. I got federal marshals here,
Ooh.
extraditing me from California as an active duty SEAL. I got
Wow.
3 court cases, a civil case being sued for $500,000. I have 3 lawyers on retainer in 2 states. It was really stressful, man. And that was not even the start. You'd think that would be like, oh man, I gotta make some changes, but it wasn't. I corrected some things. I changed up a little bit, and then had to go back to jail and walked out of jail, and I was done with the SEAL teams, man. And that was 2017.
Okay. How did what was your mental state like when you were kicked out of the SEAL teams?
Bro, I was low. I was
bet.
low
I bet.
during that time. It was like, it was a long process, probably 6 months, something like that, where
Yeah.
you're kind of getting out processed and fighting the case and all these things. And I was, dude, what am I going to do with my life? This is the only thing I've
Yeah.
wanted to do since I was a child. I had a new relationship at the time, so that gave me a little, but that was pretty tumultuous, as one could imagine. And I was trying to set up my next piece, but I had no idea what it really, who I was. I'm sure you talk about identity a lot with guys. Purpose, right? Purpose. That's
Yeah.
such a big piece. And purpose is a very interesting thing. And I've been diving into it a lot lately is what is it, right? And I hadn't really decided that being great was my purpose, right? I hadn't decided
Right.
that having strong moral clarity and and morality was part of my purpose. I had always attached purpose to what I was doing
Mm,
rather than who I was. And that was
right.
I hadn't identified that yet. That was still very, that was, if it was budding, it was very small. And so
Okay.
walking into it, I moved into another career. I had kind of set up that I wanted to do residential real estate development. So I had something I walked into that was financially kind of a lateral step, which was nice. I had my life going on and life seemed good, but
Mm-hmm.
I still had a lot of financial pressure from all the court cases. But now I was also dealing drugs,
Mm,
like big time cocaine and all this shit to like fill the gap. And I had another moment of clarity with that. Thank God. And I was like, something bad's about to happen with all this. And so I kind of gave up, took a really big financial hit, but I'm glad I did that because would
yeah.
have been something that I probably couldn't have corrected. And lo and behold, a lot of guys at that time ended up going to prison later too. And the job, the this, the that, I was stacking on just all the bad habits because now I didn't have a governor on, right? I wasn't
Right.
training for anything. I wasn't having to go to deployment. I was not getting drug tested, right? So I was
Mm-hmm.
taking Adderall and Xanax and weed and just, but still going to work and still lifting. And so what's the big deal? But it was
Mm,
every day, man. I'm very disciplined in any direction. And then that ended up turning into an opiate, fentanyl and habit, right? Where I was snorting
wow.
fentanyl at night
Wow.
while still working and doing other stuff. But imagine all that stuff, all the
Yeah.
stuff. Dude, I was so detached from God and spiritual. I had no time to self reflect. The only
Yeah.
time I would self reflect was, driving, listening to music, thinking about where I'm going in business and whatever, but no real honest self assessment.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I was riding at a pretty hard pace, but I got it, right? I got it. It's
You think
obviously everything's going well.
you think you're trying to numb losing that career in the teams? Is that why you were doing so many different drugs, you think?
Bro, you'd think that maybe, but I just washed the teams out. I just immediately
Mm,
was like, all right, it's done. I didn't even look
yeah.
back. I don't even remember I still really haven't had a moment of like, I miss it, right?
Okay.
I never really had that. And I was so involved with what I was building with the cannabis distribution company and kitchen decks. And I was working for a venture capitalist and doing a lot of
Hmm.
stuff that I was so busy. I didn't really have time. And but I was spinning my wheels too in all the ways and keeping myself busy, right? I was not
Yeah.
sleeping and my balance was way off. Very emotionally reactive in my relationship, violent, bro, with people. I was and I was any slight violation, dude. I was on people because
Mm-hmm.
because it was all projection, right? It was all my
Mm-hmm.
internal state was chaotic, and any spark, dude, would just send it. I had no emotional control at all. Very little. My emotional regulation was pretty poor at the time.
Well, did anybody from your platoon or your command when you were kind of forced out, did they try to help you at all or say, "Hey man, even though you're not with us anymore, we still love you and we got your back"? Well, where was it? Where were those relationships like, man?
I was treated pretty well by the command. They really hooked me up on the way out, actually, like
Okay.
by giving me a
Okay.
general discharge. They're like, dude, you had a pretty
Okay.
good rep in the team. So I didn't even take an OT. I got a general discharge, which kept a lot of the, medical stuff and all that, which was
Mm-hmm.
helpful. And that was
Yeah.
from the commanding officer of SEAL Team 7. And so that
Okay, cool.
was really well. And I had platoon mates and stuff that were like, hey, dude, you have a fucking issue, but I wasn't listening to anybody, so,
Right.
I just wouldn't,
Yeah.
dude. I wasn't
Yeah.
listening to,
Yeah.
I don't care if, I
I
don't care
get
if,
it,
hey,
man. I get it.
yeah,
Yeah, I
I
get it.
could not, I was so dense. I was so dense, man. And and I needed to be broken down even more. God needed to break me down even more, right? And
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
ended up doing it. I hadn't been broke down enough. That losing your SEAL career wasn't enough, right? Losing
Right.
everything wasn't enough. Going to jail wasn't enough for me. I needed to go lower. And
Mm-hmm.
by the tail end of this civilian career, now the fentanyl and now the opiates and stuff are starting to really hit, and I'm getting the speed wobbles with life. Right, I'm like
Yeah.
making a lot of money, but I'm spending a lot of money, and I'm missing meetings, and my relationship now, everything's just in kind of shambles, and now I got nothing, right? And so I end up leaving to kind of get away from everybody. I'm like pretty much separated from the job and all that, and now I'm a few months later, I'm homeless in my car.
Okay.
And this is the moment where I'm sitting there with a shotgun going, man, I think I'm just
Wow.
tired. I'm gonna just ice myself. And I
Man.
sat there for a few days, man, pretty sure. I wasn't sad. I wasn't crying. It wasn't like that. I was like very kind of just like, I'm just tired of trying.
Mm-hmm.
And that I was walking through the jungle, man, and I had these moments where I was just the veil was like pulled down, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the veil was, I had no bravado left. There was nobody to point to. It had all been stripped away. I'm like
Mm-hmm.
shoeless, shirtless, like walking around in the woods, dude. Like I was stripped down. And that's when I had that moment of clarity from God being saying, hey, man, it's time for you to reset and
Mm.
reattack this thing because you did all this so you can bring yourself out of this.
Yeah.
And that was the moment I thought about my mom and my sister and not wanting to leave this legacy of destruction, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't do that to them. And because of my selfish actions, I feel bad. And
Right.
so that was really what the catalyst was I'm gonna put my boots back on and maybe I die in a combat field, with the French Foreign Legion or something, but at least I'll die with honor. And so I was like,
Right.
I looked at it like all bonus round. If I need to go back into a crucible of some kind to test myself, to strip everything away, and to really just get back down to basics. And that's when I joined the French Foreign Legion, and that was October of 2019.
Okay. So you were in Hawaii, correct? When you had this rock bottom moment with the shotgun and living in your car,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I was
Okay.
on the Big Island of Hawaii, kind of in the jungle in the rural area where the volcanoes
Okay.
erupting. So I was
Okay.
just the venture capitalist boss, he goes, they had some business out there. So he was like, hey, go out
Okay.
there, chill out, right? You need to kind of wind down. You were an asset, now you're a liability, is what he said to me. That
Mm.
really stunk. But he said,
Yeah.
go, they had some business stuff going out there. But that was really just to kind of separate me and kind of, which was actually the best thing that ever happened to me because being that separation, I couldn't get any drugs or anything by design. That's why I
Right.
went out there, right? I had no
Gotcha.
contacts, which was actually, so I just white knuckled it and got off. I didn't sleep for a week. That was rough, man. I mean, I didn't think I was
Wow.
addicted. I didn't think I was addicted. That's how the devil lies to you, man.
We
It's
all say
pretty
that,
amazing.
dude. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just can lie to you, bro. I was like,
Yeah.
dude, I don't have a problem, but but I had never tried stopping. And so when
Right.
I had nothing, I realized, holy shit, that had its hooks in me really bad. And so I shook
Yeah.
that, and after that, never had a problem.
So you went from, okay, so you're talking about the Legion. So you go from Hawaii and you go from Hawaii to France to start that path.
Direct, bro. Took a
Nice.
one way ticket and went right there and touched down. It was raining. I had to go to some hostels. I had to get the weed out of my system and stuff. And so I
Mm.
took a few days of just pounding water and running and then was just out of money pretty much. I had no money getting there. And so I was, really, I was smoking cigarettes and just standing on the corner, just waiting some time to go by. But I was in psychologically a really low point, man.
I
Felt
imagine. Yeah.
massively isolated. I was just having tons of shame and guilt. I felt a little bit of hope, right? A little bit of hope of finally like, but there was no guarantee I was going to get in, that they would accept me.
Right.
I was terrified of if they turned me away, what would I be doing? I cut
Yeah.
up my credit cards. I had no way to get home. I cut everything. I was just going in there just raw with like 100 euros in my pocket that to go into to buy miscellaneous stuff while you're in there, and knocked on that gate, man, and went in.
All or nothing, man.
Yeah, straight YOLO, bro. This is where it fucking went, dude.
Yeah. So how did that, you know what you just reminded me of, man? I'm a little bit older than you, but you remember that movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme, Lionheart? Remember that movie?
Oh yeah, dude.
That's you, man. He was a Foreign Legion guy.
Oh yeah, I know that.
Yeah, I thought of that when you start talking about I gave up everything and I'm going into the gate. I'm like, damn, dude, you're Van Damme. You're Lionheart.
Yeah. That's what we had to do, bro. I mean, as you well know, it's like any great story. You got to have that moment of really just throwing that Hail Mary.
Mm-hmm. What was that process like when you got to the part, I guess like NDOC or whatever they call it for the Legion? How'd that go?
Well, I was sitting there, and immediately I went in, and this like Mexican dude, told me to go in, sit down. I was there on like a Sunday night, so I was by myself, and it's like an old medieval castle, and I sat, and I put my head back, dude, and it like was on this like rock dirt wall, and when I put my head back, all the like dirt and rocks, like a bunch fell on my head, and I just remember thinking like, oh dude, what am I getting myself into? And then some Ukrainian like chief, for lack of an equivalence, told me, all right, come back. He walked me back to the back barracks, which is way back in a different building, told me get up on the pull-up bar, and then I took an IQ test, and that was it. And that was immediately what I started. You're in civilian clothes, surrounded by guys from all over. Just in that one room, my one first barracks holding facility, I had a kid from Thailand, Nepal, a bunch of kids from Belarus, two from South Africa, one from Lithuania, one from Chad, and a handful of others. But that just goes to show you, that was like, and one from Mongolia. That was just goes to show you the melting pot that it is.
Yeah.
And then we started down the process: medical, IQ tests, physical tests. Then you go through another chunk after they give you a fake name, or you do down at the headquarter regiment down in South France. Then you do all those again, Gestapo interviews, interrogations. That whole process is about 3 weeks.
What kind of shape were you in when you showed up?
Dude, I always lifted, dude. Even that, I would say, dude, I was probably like the most in shape drug addict you ever seen in your life. I was like, bro, I was like still pretty jacked, and like, that's why that was also the dangers of why I could lie to myself. I'm like, dude, I'm going to the gym every day. I'm sniffing fentanyl at night, but who gives a shit, right? I'm still going to get up and go to the gym. But my running was terrible. I mean, I had run. I was still pretty lean. I wasn't like super big, but I started running like a week before I went. So I had about a week back of running, but I had always stayed moving. So I wasn't like I was starting from zero and then going into it. I mean, because they run like crazy.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. Probably ruck a lot too, right?
Whoo, bro. They are ruck monsters, dude. They're all about speed over security.
Mm. Most of the guys there, pretty good shape too. When you first got there,
the machines of war, bro. There's guys you gotta remember from Russia, Belarus, and Nepal. No, you're in the mountains with dudes from Nepal, bro. Fucking Billy goats, man. Talk about fucking. I failed, dude. So I went through the selection stuff, and I went into the mountain regiment, the mountain infantry regiment. Okay. Right. And so because they had a commando unit there. So getting out the boot camp, right? Then you go there and it's all mountain stuff. I'm not great at the mountains. I can do it, but it's not really my forte. And it was humbling. And they had this Alps test, which was like a month-long course. I passed most of it, but the final little test is a 4-hour run, like changing to ice picks to crampons, and then a run down, dude. And I'm like, bro, I ain't running downhill anywhere with a rucksack, dude. And it was like 4 hours, bro. And I didn't pass the time. And they're like, so I failed, dude. that's how humbling it was, dude. I'm a Navy SEAL coming into this.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
make it through. You're a Legionnaire, but, I hit my failure points along the way and had to retake tests and redo stuff. And mind you, I'm 34 at the time, right?
Right.
34, 35. So, it was challenging, man. And I had to change my body. It was a crazy amount of running, very low calorie, very hard pace that these dudes run at.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you this, man. You've probably been asked this before on podcasts, but if you had to pick one career path over the other, stay in the SEAL teams or be in the Legion, which path would you pick?
Oh, I would have totally stayed in the SEAL teams, like for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh
Okay.
yeah, man.
Okay.
I had started to put my packet in to kind of screen for that next level to
Okay.
when a lot of this stuff happened. And so, dude, I love the SEAL teams. I
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
nothing but great things to say. I love the culture. I love the job. I would
Yeah.
have stayed there forever. I had full plans to stay there for 30 years if I could. I
Oh,
was
okay. Nice.
exactly where I wanted to be. I had no desire to go
Yeah.
anywhere else. But as life happens, it probably
Right.
was the best thing because it forced me into something else. And now, I live an amazing life that I'm very grateful for. But dude, I don't know if I ever would have left on my own
Okay.
volition.
Gotcha. How long were you in the Legion?
4.5 years. Four
Okay.
and a half
Okay.
years. Yeah. So and we went to South America. We deployed
Mm.
down there. France has territory down in the jungle, so it's doing interdiction of illegal gold mining and drugs, and so it's like presence patrols in the jungle. So we down there for
Mm-hmm.
4 or 5 months. We're up in the Estonian border on the Russian border when
Okay.
Ukraine kicked off with NATO, working with UK, the Danish. So that was another deployment. Did some internal domestic missions. The the France uses the Legion to patrol interior of France, which is interesting. Like
Really?
dude, we were doing presence patrols on the fucking Riviera with an HK 416 and a fucking beret walking on the beach. But as part of
Wow.
for 2 months, dude, because they have so much
Yeah.
issues with terrorism and now the whole thing
Wow.
with Candace Owens and the French Foreign Legion and stuff, it's pretty interesting. There's like all this stuff coming out that they say they put a hit out on her. So there's some
Hmm.
interesting shit going on, man.
Wow, dude. Yeah. That's wild. So what did life look like? You get out of the Foreign Legion, you come back to the States directly, or do you kind of take your time and stay kind of overseas?
Bro, dude, I was like sure I was just gonna get out and maybe contract and live in
Mm-hmm.
Thailand or Colombia and kind of do that. But right before I left, right before we were about to leave, dude, I was dealing with legal issues with the Foreign Legion, right? I
Mm-hmm.
had started my YouTube, so I had all this complexity going on, legal battles with them. And so I'm like, okay, so this was like expediting my timeline. My lawyer's like, you probably are done in France, right? You're not a legal
Yeah.
resident. There's this issues. And so I'm like, all right, so I'm going to leave. But I had just met online, really, my current fiance. And,
Mm.
she was on Instagram, but she had no pictures. She had her, it was just a video of her like rubbing her grandmother's hair who has dementia. And I
Okay.
just found, but she had no pictures online. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. I was like, I don't know who you are, but that was like a pretty amazing video. I don't know, just like it just
Yeah.
touched and dude, we just connected, man. And now I have a baby with her, and we have,
Nice.
we live together. So I came
Nice.
back because I asked her, where do you live? By chance, she lived like 20 minutes away from my mom, right where I grew up.
Wow. Dude,
And
that's wild, man.
very weird. And
Wow.
I'm in France, dude, right? And so we had
Yeah.
no mutual connections, nothing. It was very, very weird. And I take things as a sign, but we just hit it
Yeah.
off and it's been amazing since. And I knew
Nice.
immediately that feeling. And now we have a beautiful baby daughter and live in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, bought a house together. And that was 2 years
Nice.
ago to the day almost.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome, man. That's
Yeah. So
awesome.
I came back and went right to my mom's house because I hadn't seen her in years. Right.
Yeah.
And chilled there for a couple days and then went and shacked up with her. we've been up in Temecula, man. And I just started working out and coaching and doing all that stuff the day I got back. And
Okay.
I had started doing it a little bit before, but and then I just kept my Legion program stateside, which is
Okay.
what I had failed at before, right? I had these like
Mhm.
peaks and valleys, these self-sabotaging moments,
Yeah.
but because I didn't have like a rooted daily plan. I didn't get up and pray. I didn't think about gratitude. I wasn't taking moments to self-reflect, and then I wasn't being deliberate about my wake. I wasn't doing any of that stuff ever
Right.
in my life. And
Right.
when I started doing it in the Legion for years, my life got much better. And so I'm like, one thing I'm not going to do is when life gets easier, drop all that. So I've just kept
Yeah.
all that, and that's been super helpful.
That's amazing, man. And you're inspiring a lot of people. And while you're kind of covering that, man, can you educate our viewers and listeners on like where Taylor's at right now and what your business looks like, how you're helping people?
Yeah, absolutely, man. People want to get a hold of me, man. TaylorCavanaugh.com. That's the best way. That contact form goes right to me. I don't outsource anything. And DM TCav official. Once again, those go right to me. I don't outsource anything and I don't AI anything by design, right? So, because I like to see everybody that comes through my funnel, but I do everything one
Hmm.
on one. I do one-on-one Zooms,
Nice.
tailor the plan. I ask a lot of questions at first because not everybody needs the same thing. So I have from business executives down to, the guy getting out of his truck trying to put his life back together after a divorce, all that. Veterans, doctors, lawyers, women, men. Really, most people just need some outside perspective because it's like a
Hmm.
fighter going into a fight. Everybody has corner, man. Nobody does this shit alone. Nobody goes out and do a fight or doesn't have a coach. I have people that I reach out to. I'm sure you have
Hmm.
mentors that you reach out
Oh
to.
yeah.
People that
Yeah.
the worst thing I say is I'll figure it out. Bro, if you're 50 and you haven't figured it out yet, you're not going to figure it out. You're not going to
Yeah.
stumble along the body you want and stuff. There's me reaching out to people taught me things about macronutrients and things like
Hmm.
that I had no idea about that changed my life. And so what I do at the beginning is I like to ask some questions. Where are you at? What are the friction points? Because sometimes it's relationships, it's daily
Hmm.
habits, it's structure, it's professional goals, it's physical fitness. So then I tailor it down and we hop on Zooms and we tighten it up and I give you, I send people their daily plan of, daily battle rhythm, what they should be focusing on and then we go from there. And we build it over time. And I've been
Nice.
working with guys for years, man.
Nice. And that's one thing I try to stress here on this platform too, is that guys, we can't do it on our own. We need a group of men that are like-minded, that make us better, and that we can turn to and ask for help or ask for advice. And I think that's a key point to hit on, man, that you can't do it all alone. And the fighter analogy is a really good one to look at it that way.
Yeah, why should you, man? If you're gonna fumble fuck it for 5 years and maybe stumble across the answer or get you
Yeah.
the body you want in 6 months, why would you do it? And people always think about cost, but they don't calculate opportunity cost. They don't calculate
Hmm.
the cost of the time it's gonna take them to stumble across the answer for years or just expedite it. Man, I want the cliff notes given to
Yeah.
me and delivered cleanly. I want to
Right.
expedite my results. I don't want to fumble around with all this different information. What works, what doesn't work.
It's a good way to put it. Well,
Yeah.
Taylor, what would you say to a man that's out there right now who's on the edge of giving up? Do you have any advice for that man that might be listening today?
Yeah, I've been there. And I'd say, man, thank God I didn't because I didn't realize that at that time that the best days of my life I hadn't even lived yet.
Hmm.
The best days of your life, if you decide to put the cleats back on, you haven't even lived yet, man. What the excitement of what that day could possibly look like. You have no idea what's coming. You have no idea. So don't block your blessings by stopping your story short.
Hmm.
Live it
That's
out.
good.
Grab your nuts, man, and sack back up. It's way more
Yeah.
admirable. And it's and
Yep.
and you owe it to yourself first, and then you owe it to everybody else, right? Don't leave a wake of
Right.
damage because you're wanting to make a permanent decision on a temporary emotion. It's too important to really
Good
give yourself
advice.
some time. First thing I say, start waking up early again. Start doing some
Yep.
push-ups. Start eating a little better. Boom.
Yep.
Start there. You don't need a plan at first. Start doing that and get some momentum.
100%. That's good advice, man. That's good
Yeah.
advice. So you're on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all those major platforms where people can find you.
Yeah, not Facebook, not Facebook,
Okay.
not Facebook, but I'm on
Okay.
TikTok and I just started loading
Okay.
up there and
Yeah.
I just start kind of firing stuff out just to kind of have a footprint there. But mostly what
Yeah.
I'm on is Instagram, and my YouTube
Okay.
is where I dive into some of the deeper principles. And on my YouTube, you go way down to the bottom, you'll see I have 227 stories now where I start from, you see the whole process from me recording in my Foreign Legion barracks room in my uniform,
Nice.
all the way
Nice.
to me recording in my beautiful house 2 years later, man. 2 years later,
Wow.
from
Wow.
nothing, making
Yeah.
1,500 a month in a barracks room, right, to living a pretty great life that I'm really proud of. And I like the sequence. I don't edit, I don't stop, I don't re-record ever by design. And then sometimes I'll
Okay.
mix in some gym footage and stuff on there
Yeah.
and some other things.
That's awesome, man. You're
Yeah.
crushing it, man. And I know a lot of people are taking notice and they're learning from you. And I appreciate the mission that you're doing and just helping other men, because there's so many men out there that just feel like they don't have any hope, that they just want to give up on life. And man, I admire what you're doing, what you've been through. And man, it's incredible to see you kind of on the other side of this journey, especially from where you started. And I know it's inspirational. It's going to help a lot of people.
Well, I thank you, brother. And just remember, if someone's in that low point, these seasons are temporary. We often
Yeah.
forget that a time of compression is not going to last. And also, a time of expansion is not going to last. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
the tides. We ebb and flow, and recognize
Yep.
just sometimes you just got to weather the punches. Hold
Yep.
fast. And then you'll
Yep.
come out of it. And then you'll be on a straightaway and the sun will be shining. And then it's going to start raining again. So don't worry.
Yep.
That's why building a blueprint, a daily process that has some outside accountability and that makes sense and keeps you in the game. And it's never
Mm-hmm.
perfect, right? Or but
Right.
as long as you know where the line is, you know where you can kind of maneuver on and off of.
You're right. You're right. Well, brother, I'm going to pray us out as we're closing out this episode. And I'm
Yeah,
grateful
absolutely,
for your
brother.
time today. All right, here we go.
Awesome.
Father, thank you for today. Thank you for Brother Taylor. Thank you for this platform to spread your gospel, Jesus, and to also raise awareness for men's mental health. I pray, Lord, that this episode reaches those men that are hurting, those men that feel alone, and those men that feel like they don't have anything left in the world. Lord, give them purpose, give them peace, and I pray that you continue to bless Taylor and his family, bless his mission. Also be with me, Lord, as I continue this platform, and I pray we inspire other men. Thank you for everything you do, Lord. It's in your mighty name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
If you got something out of this episode today, please like and subscribe to the channel and share this with someone who needs to hear this message. Taylor, man, I appreciate your time, brother. It was great to get to finally meet you face to face. I've seen you on podcasts before. I've been following you for a while, and it was cool to
Thanks.
sit down with you today, man. I really appreciate it.
Hey, likewise. I'm fasting today too. I'm on a 72 hour, so this prayer and connection, man, is
Oh,
good. I'm right in
nice.
it.
Nice, man. Yeah, nice,
Yeah.
man. Awesome, brother. I appreciate your time today, man. You take care and God
Yeah.
bless.
Y'all have a good one out here.
All right, man.